Before the doors were locked and the lights were turned off for good, Fairview State Psychiatric Hospital was a place people disappeared into, and sometimes never truly came back from. Long after it was abandoned, the building still remembers every voice, every footstep, every soul that passed through its halls. This is the story of what happens when someone returns, believing they left the past behind, only to discover that some places never let you go. I used to tell people I worked in behavioral health, because it sounded cleaner than the truth. The truth is, 3 years ago I was an orderly at Fairview State Psychiatric Hospital, the big concrete carcass that still squats on the hill outside town. Before they shut it down, before the lawsuits and the investigations, Fairview was a maze of locked doors, flickering lights, and long white halls that seemed to absorb sound. If you've ever been in an old mental hospital, you know what I mean when I say the building itself feels wrong. Like it remembers things. I quit after an incident I still don't talk about. I moved, switched jobs, did everything you're supposed to do when you want to outrun a place. But 2 months ago, I got a message that dragged me straight back. It was 1:43 a.m. I remember that time exactly because I'd just checked the clock, telling myself I'd only scroll for 10 more minutes before bed. Then my phone buzzed with a notification from an unknown number. One new voicemail. No missed call. I frowned. Opened it. The voicemail was 15 seconds long. At first it was just static. Then I heard it, faint, buried under the noise, the sharp pop of an old fluorescent light, the echo of a metal door shutting somewhere down a hall, a hospital bed squeaking over linoleum. I know those sounds. I heard them for 2 years straight. Then, over the static, a woman's voice whispered. You left me here. The voicemail ended. My skin went cold. I replayed it, pressing the phone to my ear and holding my breath. Same static. Same sounds. Same words. You left me here. I checked the caller ID. Nothing helpful, just a spoofed local number that reversed to nowhere when I googled it. Could it be a prank? Someone messing with me who knew where I used to work? Maybe. But my brain didn't go there first. It went to Ward C. To room 314. To a patient named Lydia. Fairview had 4 main wards when I worked there, A and B for general psych, D for geriatrics, and C for what everyone politely called acute and intensive. The real name was the secure ward. The place where the doors were double-locked, cameras watched every angle, and staff never went in alone. Lydia was different from the others. She was in her late 20s, thin, pale, with hair that always seemed damp even when it was dry. She'd been moved to Fairview after a string of failed placements and one incident the doctors never wrote down in plain language, but everyone whispered about. Here's what I knew, she screamed at Reflections. Any reflective surface, windows, polished tile, stainless steel, set her off. She'd claw at her own face if she saw herself too long. She also refused to sleep if the hallway lights were off. Don't turn them off, she'd beg, gripping my sleeve when we did checks. They move in the dark. They move better in the dark. When I asked who they were, she'd look up at the sprinkler heads in the ceiling, eyes wide, and whisper, the ones who stand behind you. So yes, she made my skin crawl. But she was also the only patient on C who could sit calmly and hold a normal conversation for more than 5 minutes. The night everything went bad, I was working a double shift. The hospital was short-staffed, as always, and the census was higher than it should have been. The head nurse on C, a guy named Ross, was running on his 4th cup of coffee and pure irritation. Around 2 a.m., the power flickered. We all felt it. Fairview was ancient, and any time the electricity hiccuped, the whole building shuddered. The hallway lights blinked off, then on, then off again, and stayed off. The emergency lights kicked in, but on Ward C, that meant small red bulbs every 20 feet and nothing in between. The long hallway became a jagged tunnel of dim islands. I heard 3 doors slam open at once. Patients shouting. Someone laughing. Someone crying. Stay with your zone. Ross barked, already halfway down the hall with a flashlight. Doors stay locked. We'll get the generator up in 5. My zone was the back half, rooms 309 through 320. Room 314 was Lydia's. Her observation window was just a dark rectangle as I got to her door. No movement, no sound. I unlocked the top bolt, then the bottom, cracked it just enough to peer in. Lydia? My flashlight beam slid across her bed. Empty. My stomach dropped. We were supposed to check restraints, check corners, check the tiny closet-sized bathroom. I did all of that, my heart pounding in my ears. No Lydia. I stepped back into the hallway. Ross. I called, trying to keep the panic out of my voice. Lydia's not in her room. He swore from somewhere down the hall. Check the bathroom again. She can't be. A scream cut him off. High, sharp, right behind me. I spun around. It came from the dayroom, the common area at the end of the hall. Its door was propped open, the inside lit only by that evil red emergency bulb in the ceiling. The TV in the corner flickered with static, painting the chairs in stuttering gray light. I ran in. For a second, I thought the room was empty. Then my flashlight beam hit the far wall. Lydia was standing there, her nose almost touching the glass of the big observation window that looked out into the courtyard. Her hospital gown hung crooked off one shoulder. Her hands were flat on the glass. She was staring at her own reflection in the black window. Except, her reflection wasn't quite right. The angle of the jaw was off. The shoulders seemed narrower, the head tilted just a little too far to the side. And while Lydia's hands lay flat against the glass, her reflection's fingers were curled, like it was bracing to push out. Lydia, I said, my throat dry. You're not supposed to be in here. You know that. She didn't move. Didn't blink. Lydia? She exhaled sharply. The glass fogged for a moment. Her reflection did not. Every hair on my arms rose. Okay, I said carefully, stepping closer. Let's go back to your room, all right? They're gonna freak out if they... Don't turn the lights off, she whispered. Her voice sounded wrong. Too close and too far away at once. The generator will kick on, I said. You're fine. I'm right here. She laughed, a small, ragged sound. You're not here. You're behind the glass. I opened my mouth to argue, then froze. Because the girl in the reflection, the one who looked almost like Lydia but not quite, was looking directly at me. But Lydia's head hadn't moved. Her real eyes were still locked on the dark courtyard. Her reflection's eyes were on me. And her reflection was smiling. Not a full smile. Just the corners of the mouth pulled back a touch too wide, teeth barely showing. I should have backed out. I should have hit the panic button on my radio, called for security, called for, hell, I don't know, a priest. Instead, I stepped closer, as if I could see better from a few feet away. The emergency light overhead flickered. For one single second, the reflection wasn't just slightly wrong. It was completely wrong. Lydia's face stayed neutral, blank, tired. But in the glass, the thing wearing her features was pressed against the pane like an animal at a cage, eyes huge, pupils blown, lips peeled back in a silent snarl I could see down to the gums. Then the light steadied, and it was just, almost Lydia again. I swallowed. We're going back to your room, I said. Right now. I reached for her wrist. She whispered, don't touch me, and in the glass, her reflection mouthed something else. Don't leave. I grabbed her anyway, fingers closing around bone and skin that felt cooler than it should. She didn't fight. She let me lead her back through the doorway, down the dim hall, past doors and red pools of light. As we stepped away, I made the mistake of glancing back at the window. There was nothing in it. No reflection. No hallway. Just black glass that swallowed my flashlight beam whole. The power came back 5 minutes later. The generator hum stuttered to life, the fluorescence buzzed overhead, and Ward C looked like itself again, too bright, too white, too loud. Lydia stared at the ceiling and refused to speak for the rest of the night. 2 weeks later, Fairview shut down. On paper, it was budget cuts. Behind closed doors, it was stories like that repeated across wards, things that never made it into the official reports. Patients vanishing from locked rooms and reappearing in places they couldn't reach. Cameras glitching whenever certain doors were opened. Staff hearing their own voices on intercom speakers when they weren't near a button. And one night, a nurse found an entire hallway reflected wrong in a window, equipment from decades ago, staff uniforms no one wore anymore, names on doors that had been painted over years before. She quit the next day. Half the staff followed within a month. Fairview closed, and the county scattered the patients to other facilities. I signed my termination papers and promised myself I was done. Which brings me back to that voicemail. You left me here. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake in my dark apartment, staring at the ceiling, replaying those words. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe some idiot downloaded a recording from a haunted hospital YouTube video and used a spoofing app. Maybe. Or maybe not. The next evening, right around dusk, I drove out to Fairview. The road up to the hospital used to be plowed and salted in winter, patched in summer. Now it was cracked and overgrown, weeds clawing up through the asphalt, branches scraping along the sides of my car. The main building loomed ahead, a hulking 5-story block of concrete and glass that had gone blind. Most of the windows were boarded. A few remained uncovered, black squares watching the parking lot. There was a fence around the property now, topped with razor wire. A big rusted padlock held the gate shut. Used to be, anyway. When I pulled up, it dangled from the chain, hanging open like someone had already been through. The smart thing to do would have been to turn around. Maybe call the sheriff, say, "Hey, pretty sure kids are breaking into the old psych hospital again." But smart didn't feel like an option. Not with those 3 words still echoing in my head. You left me here. I told myself I'd just go up to the front doors. Look around. That would be enough, somehow. A symbolic check-in, a way to put my guilt back in a box. I killed the engine, pocketed my flashlight, and slipped through the gate. Up close, Fairview smelled like damp concrete, mold, and something sour underneath, like old fear soaked into the walls. The front doors were glass, spiderwebbed with cracks. Someone had spray-painted a big red smiley face over them. Underneath, in black, another tag. Don't look at the windows. I laughed once, humorless. Okay. Cute. The doors were chained shut. But down the left side of the building, I knew there was a service entrance that used to stick if you yanked hard enough. Old habits guided my feet. Around the corner, past the loading bay, there it was, a metal door with peeling gray paint and a little square window at eye level. The glass was opaque with grime. I tried the handle. It turned. The door side opened into darkness. The smell hit me first. Not rot, the building was too dry for that, but dust and old air. Air that hadn't moved in a long time. I clicked on my flashlight. The beam cut through floating particles, revealing a narrow hallway lined with peeling paint and scuffed floors. I recognized the layout immediately. This was the service corridor behind the main kitchen. Ward C was 2 floors up and on the far side of the building. You could not pay me enough to admit how relieved I was that daylight still leaked in from some dirty high windows as I climbed the stairs. My flashlight jittered with the tremor in my hand, making shadows twitch on the walls. At the second-floor landing, someone had scrawled on the wall in black marker. No mirrors. No glass. No reflections. I thought about turning back again. I didn't. Ward C looked smaller than I remembered. Without the harsh hospital lighting and constant buzz of staff, it felt like a stage after the audience had gone home. Empty chairs sat where nurses once charted. An overturned gurney lay on its side near the far end of the hall. A stray latex glove crackled under my shoe. My flashlight beam slid over closed doors, each with a small square window set in the top half. Most were smeared with years of grime. Room 314 was halfway down on the left. Its window was clean. I stopped. Every other pane I'd passed was clouded, scratched, or opaque with dust. But this one was clear, the glass shining dully in my beam. Something moved behind it. Just a flicker. A shift of darkness. Enough to make my breath catch. Lydia? I called, hating how my voice echoed. No answer. I stepped closer. The window came up to my chest. I had to lean in to see. The room beyond was empty. Metal bed frame, bare mattress, bolted-down chair, stainless steel combination sink and toilet. All standard issue. The light from my flashlight bounced off the sink basin, throwing a pale oval onto the wall. Then the light dimmed. Like something had stepped between it and the sink. I jerked back. The hallway behind me was empty. Just peeling paint and gray doors. No one there. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I nearly jumped out of my skin. With shaking fingers, I pulled it out. Unknown number. I hit accept. Hello? Static. The same soft hiss from the voicemail. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. Who is this? I asked. How are you calling from this number? For a moment, there was nothing. Then, under the noise, I heard it, that soft pop of a fluorescent tube. The echo of a metal door. The squeak of wheels. And then a voice. My own voice. Lydia? The hairs on the back of my neck prickled. It repeated, a little louder this time. Lydia? My voice from years ago. From that night. The call ended with a sharp crackle, like someone had pinched the line shut. Behind the glass of room 314, something moved again. Not a shadow this time. A shape. Thin. Human-sized. Standing just to the side of the door, where you couldn't see it unless you pressed your face to the window and angled the light just right. I knew that trick. Patients used it all the time to jump scare new staff. Okay, I said, my mouth dry. Okay, if this is a joke, you got me. You really got me. Silence. I raised the flashlight slowly, squinting through the glass. The cone of light slid over the mattress. Empty. Over the chair. Empty. Onto the back wall. Empty. The bathroom door in the far corner was ajar, opening into darkness. I knew better than to open a bathroom door without backup. I knew better than to open any door on C alone, period. But the handle was right there. My old muscle memory made my fingers itch. I unlocked the top bolt. Then the bottom. The lock made a sharp clack that echoed down the hall. I pushed the door open. The room was colder than the corridor. That was my first thought. Not, who's in here? Not, what am I doing? Just, it's colder in here. My breath puffed in front of me in a faint cloud. Lydia? I whispered, because apparently I can't stop saying that name in stupid situations. The bathroom door creaked. It opened the rest of the way on its own, slow and smooth. The tiny tiled space was empty. No, not quite. The mirror above the sink, that narrow strip of stainless steel they'd installed because real glass was too dangerous, was still mounted to the wall. I stared at it, my throat tight. The beam of my flashlight caught my reflection. For a second, it was just me. Pale, anxious, eyebrows pulled together. Light bouncing off the phone in my hand. Then the reflection lifted its free hand and waved. I did not. I froze. My real arm hung at my side, muscles locked. But in the metal, my double's fingers fluttered in a lazy little hello. My heart slammed against my ribs so hard I felt it in my teeth. Stop, I whispered. The reflection tilted its head, considering. Then it smiled. I felt my own lips still, pressed into a tight line. In the metal, teeth showed. Too many, too white. Something cold brushed the back of my neck. Every instinct screamed at once. I spun around, stumbling back against the sink hard enough to rattle it. The room was empty. The door to the hall was still open. Beyond it, the corridor waited, dim and dead. I turned back to the mirror. The stainless steel showed only the doorway. I wasn't in it. I should have been. I was standing directly in front of it. But the strip of metal reflected nothing. Just the empty room, the open door, the dark hall. Something moved in the hallway. Not out there. In the reflection. A shadow slid along the floor. Long wrong. Like someone walking on limbs jointed in too many places. It passed the open doorway in the metal. The real hallway stayed still. I couldn't breathe. My phone buzzed again. I didn't look at the screen, I just hit accept with my thumb. Please, I whispered, not sure who I was talking to. Please, stop. Static. Then a voice. Not mine this time. Not Lydia's. Close to my ear, as if someone was whispering directly into the receiver and directly behind me. You left us here. Plural. Us. In the stainless steel reflection, the hallway filled with figures. Dozens of them. Standing shoulder to shoulder, pressed together in a silent crowd. Some wore hospital gowns. Some wore staff scrubs. Some I couldn't place at all. Their faces were blurred, except for the eyes. Every eye was on me. In the real doorway, there was nothing. In the mirror, they started to move. Not walking, just sliding closer. The way a reflection does when you lean into it. Except I wasn't moving. The static in my ear rose to a roar. Under it, I heard overlapping whispers. Names. Room numbers. Snatches of old orders. Room 314, restraints, remove at. Code Blue, Ward A. He's not breathing, no, don't. Don't turn the lights off, please don't, please don't. Voices I remembered. Voices I'd tried to forget. In the reflection, the crowd reached the bathroom door. Their feet never touched the floor. Their legs were too long, bending in places legs don't bend. The closest face lifted, features sloughing into something inhuman and too familiar at the same time. The eyes were mine. The mouth was Lydia's. The jaw was Ross's. We were here, it whispered, from everywhere at once. You left. We stayed. We waited behind the glass. I did what I should have done from the beginning. I ran. I bolted out of room 314, almost catching my shoulder on the doorframe, feet sliding on dust. I didn't look back. I didn't check the other rooms. I didn't try to be brave. The building seemed to swell around me, the hallway stretching longer and longer, each red exit sign retreating just out of reach. Somewhere behind me, a metal door slammed. Fluorescent lights crackled. For a heartbeat, the corridor in front of me wasn't the one I knew. The walls were darker, lined with equipment I'd never seen. Nurses in old-fashioned uniforms flickered in and out like a bad channel. Gurneys rolled past, pushed by invisible hands. Then, just as fast, it was empty concrete again. I hit the stairwell door so hard it banged against the wall. The echo chased me down the steps, my phone still buzzing in my hand, voicemail notifications stacking up like missed chances. I didn't stop until I was outside, stumble running across the cracked parking lot to my car. The hospital watched me go. Every dark window felt like an eye. I didn't breathe right until I'd cleared the main road and the building was out of sight in the rearview mirror. Only then did I look at my phone. 12 new voicemails. All from that same unknown number. I didn't listen to them. I deleted them, hands shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. Then, after a long moment, I went to my contacts and scrolled to a name I hadn't touched in years. Ross, Fairview. It rang 4 times before he picked up. Hello? His voice was older, rougher. But it was him. It's me, I said. From Ward C. Silence. Then a slow exhale. I was wondering when you'd call. My mouth went dry. You've been getting them too. Voicemails, he said. Middle of the night? Our own voices? Yeah. Papers rustled on his end. They started a few weeks after they locked the doors. I figured it was just me losing my mind until one of the old nurses called crying about the same thing. Why didn't you tell anyone? I asked. And say what? He gave a humorless little laugh. That the hospital's still working without us? That it's chewing on memories? The county doesn't even want to admit the building exists. My grip tightened on the phone. It's not just memories. No, he agreed quietly. It's not. We sat in silence for a moment, the line buzzing softly between us. Did you go back inside? He asked. I stared straight ahead at the road, the trees whipping past. Yeah, I said. And? I think, I said carefully, there are parts of that place that never learned we closed. They're still running the same script. Same halls. Same voices. Same patients. And us, he said. And us, I echoed. The reflections of us, anyway. Another sigh. You left when they shut it down, he said. You got out clean. Why go back? Because of a voicemail, I thought. Because of a girl who screamed at mirrors. Because I can't shake the feeling that door is still open somewhere. I thought I owed them something, I said instead. I thought maybe I could close it. Yeah, Ross said softly. I thought that too. And? It doesn't want to be closed, he said. Whatever Fairview is now, it needed bodies. When we left, it kept what it could. A pause. You ever notice there were discrepancies in the transfer paperwork? I thought about the names whispered in my ear. The plural. Us. What are you saying? I asked. I'm saying, he replied, double-check the discharge list sometime. Count the names that made it out. Then count the ones that didn't. Static fuzzed between us. For a second, it sounded like the hiss from the hospital intercom. Ross? I said. The line crackled. A familiar voice whispered through from very far away. You left me here. Then the call dropped. I sat in my parked car outside my apartment for a long time, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. That was 2 months ago. I moved again last week. New town, new job. I picked an apartment with no shared hallway, no big reflective windows. I shower with the curtain half closed so I don't have to look at the fogged mirror straight on. Most nights, my phone is on airplane mode by 10 Every now and then, though, I forget. I get caught up in something, let the battery drain, fall asleep with it resting on my chest. And sometimes, just sometimes, I wake up at 1:43 a.m. to a soft, insistent buzzing and the little notification on the lock screen. One new voicemail. No missed call. I haven't listened to the latest one. I don't think I need to. I already know what it will say. I know whose voice will be on the other end. Not just one, anymore. Not just Lydia. All of them. The patients we lost track of, the staff who didn't quite leave, the versions of us that kept walking those halls in fluorescent light long after we turned off the power. You can only ignore a place like Fairview for so long before it finds a way to remind you. After all, what's a hospital without someone on the other side of the glass?